Hey, this is Steven from LegitTechTutorials, and we're going to do Java Part 4, which is going to be loops. So what is a loop? A loop is basically something like this. It is something where you test some sort of operation, and depending on how that operation goes through, you're going to do some sort of action. So if this is equal to this, then do this. If this is less than this, do this. If this is more than this, do that. That type of thing. Now we could also do something called recursive loops, where they keep reoccurring until a certain condition is met. Conditional loops. And then you have other ways to do to write those quicker. So, for example, let's say we have int number 1 equals 1, int number 2 equals 2, or let's say 1 for this case. So we're going to go with an if loop. So we have if, and if is a method. We're going to do if number 1 equals number, you have to do double equals, because if you do equals, it's going to set number 1 equals to number 2, which we don't want to do that. So double equals is a comparison, which is also an operator, which is similar to the plus, minus, and all that kind of stuff. Equals is also an operator. And double equals is the comparison operator. So here we do this, and we're going to say system.out.println. We're going to say number 1 is equal to number 2, and we are going to close this. And you do not close it here because it's waiting to do something. Like I said, it's reading. It says, okay, do it. Alright, so now that we got through that, so it should tell us run right through. It says number 1 is equal to number 2. Now what if we change this in 2? Now number 1 is not equal to number 2. And nothing happens. It says terminated, program went through. Now we're going to say, is number 2 greater than or equal to number 2? But of course we need to change the wording in here. And the same way, if you were going to do it this way, it should just terminate because 1 is not greater than 2, so it terminates. And that is an if loop. Now you could do other things, like for example, let's say we want to keep that, and we want to say double and sign. Let me find the and sign really quick. There it is. So this is, the first condition has to be met and the second condition has to be met. So if number 1 is less than or equal to number 2, then say this. Which it... Oh, sorry, this is equal. They're not equal. So in this case, we're gonna want a or. So two pipes, right? And a pipe is the shift and the one above the enter, and that's called a pipe. So the pipe is or. So this has to be true, or this has to be true. If you have two and signs, this and this has to be true, and this works in all the loops. Now let's go over something similar, which is basically, this is a counter loop. So you have int I equals 0, and then you close that, and you say, while I is less than or equal to 100, I increment, which is basically I gets bigger, right? So let me space this out so you can see it. So there's 3 parts here. You declare your counter variable usually in the first part. So in this case, you use I for index. As everybody, you always use I just for whatever reason. And then here we have the comparison. So here's where the if comes in. And then here is what you want it to do. You want it to count I. So every time it goes through and it looks at this again, it's going to increase the I amount. So let's only do it 10 times. So or 5 times. Now, this is where it could get a little difficult, is that is that in this case we're starting off at 0, so it prints it once and it goes 1. So I'm going to use 2 hands here to display it for myself. So you start at 0, it displays once, and then it goes to 1, then it goes to 2, then it goes to 3, then it goes to 4, then it goes to 5. So it should only do 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See? So usually if you get rid of this like that, then it should only do it 4 times. So you have to watch that. So if it does equal, it'll do it the 5th time, and then it'll add it to, and then I will become 6, and then it won't work. So let's also show that really quick so you can see what's going on. System.out.println, and we're going to outprint what I is in that index. So you see here it says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see now it's 5, so they're equal, so it's not going to go through again. So right here it's checking it, it's at 5, it's not going to go through the loop, and it leaves the loop, right? So then it goes out and it leaves the loop and continues on. So left the loop, we're going to continue doing whatever outside. And you notice we have a body in here, so inside the body is basically what we're telling it to do. Same thing as here in the main is the curly brackets, right? Same thing here. And now we got out of the loop, and we could continue doing other things past that loop. Now we're going to do something called a while loop. Sorry, lowercase w. While loop. While loop is a continuous loop. So basically, usually it's something sort of like the for loop, except for this one, you do some sort of input most of the time for this. So you have some sort of scan. So you have some sort of scanner, right? You do scanner scan equals new scanner system dot in, right? And then you're gonna say you're gonna scan say string, and this is also interesting. I'll talk about this comparison as well later. So we're gonna do string check equals go. So basically string is not necessarily a primitive, it is actually a method. So basically what you have to do is this is looking for another primitive type called Boolean, which is either true, which you see lights up. Of course I didn't do an identifier here, so we're going to say go equals true, which is good, or it's false. So that's what this is. That's what it's doing here. It's checking the comparison, and if it returns true, it goes into the loop. If it returns false, it goes out of the loop. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to do check dot equals go, right? Because if you do equals sign, basically what it's going to do is it's going to compare it as an int. So it's going to see that, hey, this is only for length, right? It's going to say, oh, this. It's going to compare the ASCII values, actually. It's going to compute it to ASCII values and compare the ASCII values. So it could cause problems. So you just do here equals go. We're going to say system.out.println. We are still in, and then we're gonna do scan dot next line. Of course you would prompt them probably, but in this case we already know what it's gonna do. So we're gonna do scan dot next line is check. So it says we are still in, and we do go. It says we are still in, go, 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 stop, or you could type in whatever, and it terminates. So as long as it's go, it's going to keep going through that loop. And you can see how that's pretty beneficial. You could do a lot of recursive. This is a recursive loop. The while loop is very recursive. And you could keep it in the loop and keep going through and doing computation every time until you want it to stop, and then you type in a special key character to get it out. Right? You say stop or leave or exit or whatever, and you can do interfaces and stuff like that, and you know, basic type thing. And this is used a lot. And something else that is not used as much is kind of, I mean, it's used quite a bit, is with the if loop. If you do if and you say blah blah blah, if that's true, and there's an else, right? And so if this doesn't work, then it goes into this loop, and then it continues on outside of the loop. And then there's also the else if, and then you have another thing in here. So if this doesn't work, it goes into this, and it will only go to this if this doesn't work. It won't just move on to this. If this works, it will skip. And by the way, this is one time. It'll only do it once, and then it'll terminate, right? No matter what. The while loop is continuous, and the for loop is conditional. So the while loop will keep going until something is met. We'll keep going through and stay inside of that block. The if will only go through there once. So it will check this, and if this is true, it'll do whatever's inside here, and then it'll continue on. Now, if this is not true, it will go to this, and then it'll look at this if statement. But it'll only go to this statement if this isn't true. Right? And then it will leave. Otherwise, you would just do an else. So if it's anything else than what it is in here, anything, doesn't matter what it is, if that's false, it'll go into this else. And then it'll continue on. If this is true, it'll do this, skip the else, and continue on. And that's basically loops right there in a nutshell. Now, loops are basically the brains. It's basically AI of computer science. Beginning computer science. It makes your program have some thought and comparison, right? Basic, human thought of comparing one thing to the other. We do it all the time. But this is how a computer does it. It uses these comparisons, and we're going to be working with a lot of different comparisons to do different things, especially in the next coming up video, which it's either going to be problem solving or methods in classes. I think I'm probably going to make it do problem solving. So probably problem solving, and then I'll do. So next one's going to be problem solving. That would be number 5. Number 5 is going to be problem solving, and then the next one after that is going to be methods in classes, pretty much. But don't quote me on that. So I know for sure the next one is going to be problem solving, and then we'll do a program that runs just in the main, and we'll do either giving out change or checking grade point values and giving you grade point values back. And so this is loops. We're going to use these in our next one as well, so don't worry if I didn't dive too deep into them here. We're going to be using them a lot further on in the tutorials and later in the video, and in all of your programming stuff. You're definitely going to see loops. Loops are the bread and butter of programming. So this has been Steven from LegitTechTutorials, and this is video 4 of Beginning Java, Beginning Java 4, loops, basically loops. And stay tuned for the next video, and subscribe for more videos like it, and thank you for watching.